I never imagined my life would lead to something like this. To be honest, I was just normal. I wasn't anyone special. I didn't have visions. I didn't hear voices. I didn't even go to church regularly. My name is Leia. I'm 39 years old, born and raised in Lyon, France. I worked as a freelance interior designer, mostly for local cafes and family homes. I loved creating cozy spaces, places where people could feel something good, warmth, connection, peace. Funny, looking back now, how I was always trying to recreate something I didn't quite understand myself. I lived alone, but not lonely. My parents had passed a few years ago, and I had two brothers who lived in different cities. We talked from time to time, but there was distance, physical and emotional. My closest connection was probably with my cat, Nino. He was my little guardian, always by the window, always watching. I had questions, deep ones, silent ones. Why are we here? Why do bad things happen to good people? Is there anything after death, or is it just darkness? Sometimes I would lie in bed and feel this strange ache in my chest. Not physical pain, but a spiritual emptiness. Like a part of me knew there was something more, something calling. I just didn't know where to look, or if I even wanted to find it. I was afraid of what I might discover, afraid of being wrong. I had stopped praying years ago. Life felt too complicated, and God felt too far. Or maybe, deep down, I didn't think he'd listen anyway. But still, there were moments, little moments that made me wonder. A quiet sunset that made me cry for no reason. A dream where I heard a voice say, "It's not too late." Or the way time seemed to pause whenever I saw someone helping a stranger. Were these signs? Or was my mind just desperate for meaning? I didn't tell anyone about these thoughts. In the world I lived in, people liked certainty, logic, science. Belief was something private, almost embarrassing. So I kept it inside, smiling at work, scrolling through life, designing pretty things, while my soul wandered in silence. And then, everything changed. My name is Leia. I'm 39 years old and I live in Lyon, France. Not Paris, not some dreamy village in the countryside. Lyon, a city that breathes history, art, and contradiction. It's not too fast, not too slow. It has the rhythm of someone who's lived just enough to appreciate silence, but still craves meaning. I grew up in a modest apartment in the Croix-Rousse district, where artists, immigrants, and old families live side by side. My parents were simple people. My father worked as a school teacher. My mother was a florist. We didn't have much, but we had enough. What we lacked in luxury, we made up for in love, or at least we used to. My father passed away from cancer when I was 21. It was the kind of death that isn't sudden. It drags you with it for months. I remember watching him fade, his voice becoming softer, his hands colder. At first, we prayed every night, but as the illness progressed, our prayers turned into silence. And when he died, something in me shut down too. Not just grief, something deeper. A fracture in my spirit. A wound I didn't know how to name. My mother followed him a few years later. A stroke, unexpected and brutal. I found her on the kitchen floor. That image haunted me for years. After that, I felt like I was floating through life without anchors. No parents, no real family near me, just air. I had dreams once. I wanted to travel to Iceland, walk through rainforests in Brazil, see the northern lights. I even saved up for a backpacking trip once, but I canceled last minute. I was afraid of being alone in a world I didn't understand. So instead, I built a world I could control. My small apartment, my plants, my design projects, my cat. Work was my escape. As an interior designer, I focused on comfort, balance, harmony. I spent hours choosing the perfect shade of beige, the right texture of fabric, the placement of light. My clients loved my work. They said I had a gift. But if you looked closely, every space I created had one common element, a sense of longing, as if I was always trying to recreate a place that didn't quite exist on Earth. I wasn't married. I had relationships, but nothing that lasted. Sometimes I wondered if something was wrong with me. I saw friends getting married, having children, posting photos of perfect lives while I ate dinner alone. But part of me was okay with that. I didn't want something just to fill a void. I wanted truth. But truth was hard to find. I had moments of joy, of course. I loved music, old soul records and classical piano. I loved the smell of rain on pavement, the first sip of hot coffee, the way light danced through my living room in the early morning. I wasn't depressed. I was just searching, quietly, desperately. And then there were the dreams. Not just ordinary dreams, these were vivid, strange, sacred. One time I saw a great wave coming toward a city, but no one was afraid. Everyone just stood there watching, calm. Another time, I walked through a forest of mirrors. In each reflection, I looked different. Older, younger, sadder, wiser. One night, I saw myself holding a burning candle in the middle of a desert, and a voice said, "The flame is inside you, but the wind is coming." What did it mean? I didn't know. I never told anyone. I wrote them down in a notebook, tucked away in a drawer I rarely opened. I told myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew. I knew something was building. I could feel it, in my bones, in my breath, in my silence, a sense that the world, my world, was about to change. I just didn't know how, or when. And then came that day, the day everything stopped. The kind of day that seems harmless. Gray skies, a light drizzle, that early autumn chill where the wind bites a little, but not enough to demand a coat. I remember because I had just finished a client meeting near the Saône River. We were finalizing the layout for a small cafe, a warm space filled with wood textures and soft lamps. I remember thinking, this one's going to feel like home. I had taken the tram to get there, but on the way back, I decided to walk. I needed air, not just fresh air, soul air. You know when you feel something stirring inside, like a storm gathering beneath your ribs? That's what I felt. Restless, uneasy, like my spirit knew something my mind didn't. I stopped at a bakery near Place Bellecour and bought a pain au chocolat, my favorite. I stood outside under the awning, watching the people go by. Everyone rushing, looking down at their phones, umbrellas bumping into each other. Life moving forward, unaware, just like me. That's the last moment I remember clearly. What happened next came in fragments. A sound, a flash, a sensation of weightlessness. And then, nothing. Later, they told me a delivery truck had lost control at the corner. The driver tried to brake, but the road was slick. The truck jumped the curb, and I was standing directly in its path. I didn't even see it coming. There was no time to scream, no dramatic leap out of the way. Just an explosion of force, a violent push. My body flew, I was told, crumpled like a puppet onto the cold, wet concrete. But from my perspective, it was surreal. One moment I was biting into a warm pastry. The next, I was floating in silence. There was no pain at first, no panic, no noise, just lightness. Like I had been lifted out of myself, like a heavy coat had suddenly been removed. I looked down and saw the scene from above, as if I were watching a movie. People running, someone screaming, a man on his phone calling for help. My body was lying twisted on the pavement. Blood was pooling near my head. My purse had spilled and the pain au chocolat was flattened beside me, still half wrapped. I stared at it. That stupid pastry. I had just taken a bite. The absurdity of it made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. But here's the strangest thing. I didn't feel fear. In that moment, suspended above it all, I felt peace. Not happiness, not relief. Just a calm that ran deeper than anything I'd ever known. Like every worry, every unanswered question, every grief and regret had been washed away. Then something shifted. It was like the world around me started to dim, not in a scary way, but like a gentle closing of a curtain. The city noise, the sirens, the voices, all faded. And then I began to move. Not with my legs, not by will, but as if I were being drawn upward, effortlessly, through air, through silence, through something I don't have words for. There was warmth, a vibration in the air, soft and humming, like music you can't quite hear but still feel. I wasn't alone anymore. I felt presence, something sacred, something holy, something realer than anything I had ever known. But I was still in between, not alive, not dead, not here, not there, just in the in-between. And it was only the beginning. At first, I didn't fully understand what was happening. I thought maybe I was dreaming. Maybe I had fainted. Maybe this was some strange dissociation, a trick of the brain reacting to trauma. But then, I felt it. A sudden, sharp pull in my chest, like a thread being yanked out of fabric. It wasn't physical, not in the way we think of pain, but it was real. It was the pain of detachment, of leaving something behind that you've known your whole life, your body, my body. I felt myself tearing away from it, There was resistance at first, like something inside me was still trying to hold on, to stay. My body was broken, yes, but it was mine. I had lived in it, laughed in it, cried in it, carried memories in it. And now, I was being pulled from it. I remember trying to speak, but I had no voice. I tried to move, but I had no limbs. There was a moment of panic, brief but intense, like I was free-falling through a tunnel of nothingness. I couldn't breathe, not because there was no air, but because there was no need for air. That realization alone shattered everything I thought I knew about being alive. And then, silence. But not an empty silence. It was alive. A thick, sacred silence that held space, like the quiet inside a cathedral after the last note of a hymn. There was no fear anymore. No confusion. Just awareness. I was still me, but not the me I had known. Not Leia, the designer, or the daughter, or the woman walking the streets of Lyon. I was something deeper now. A soul, maybe. A consciousness. A point of light, detached from time and skin. I looked down again. There I was, lying motionless, surrounded by strangers. A paramedic was performing CPR. Someone was holding my hand. Another was crying. A woman, maybe in her 50s, was praying over me. I didn't know her, but I felt her prayer touch something in me. Not just her words, but her heart. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her I was okay, but I couldn't, because I wasn't there anymore. I was somewhere else, and that's when I saw the veil. It wasn't a wall or a door. It wasn't something physical. It was more like a shift in reality, like a curtain of light, shimmering just beyond the limits of sight. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, and I knew, if I crossed it, I wouldn't come back. I hovered near it, unsure. I wasn't afraid, but I was deeply aware. This was the crossing point, the place between death and what comes after. Something whispered in my soul, not a voice, but a knowing. You are not your body. You never were. And with that, the last tether snapped. I was free, weightless, timeless, painless, and yet, more alive than I had ever felt in my entire existence. It's impossible to describe with human language. But imagine this. Imagine every moment of love you've ever felt, every breath of peace, every second of clarity, condensed into a single presence that holds you, surrounds you, becomes you. That's what I entered. Not a place, not a destination, but a reality more real than this one. A realm where truth is not spoken. It is. Where everything is known, not with the mind, but with the soul. And where I would soon come face to face with him. I drifted upward, slowly at first, like a feather on still air. There was no effort, no tension, no thought, just movement. Gentle, inevitable, sacred. Below me, the world began to fade, not like a switch turning off, but like colors dissolving into watercolor. The buildings, the people, the noise, my body, they were all becoming distant, like echoes from a place I no longer belonged to. And I didn't want to belong to it anymore. Not because life was bad, not because I was tired, but because something ahead, something just beyond, was calling me with a love that made everything else feel like a shadow. And then, I saw it. The light. Not a light like the sun. Not harsh, not blinding. It didn't shine at me. It embraced me. It was everywhere, and it was alive. The closer I came, the more I felt it enter me. Not just on the outside, inside. It wasn't like being warmed. It was like being remembered. Like the deepest parts of me were being awakened, cell by cell, by something I had always known but forgotten. The space around me was vast, but not empty. It was full, with intelligence, with presence, with truth. There were no walls, no floors, no sky, just light. Infinite, golden, radiant light. And as I floated forward, I realized I wasn't alone. I could sense others, souls, presences, not in physical form, but unmistakably real. They were not strangers. I didn't know their names, but I knew them, their essence. Like recognizing someone from a dream you forgot but never stopped loving. One of them came close, not walking, just being. And I felt this overwhelming peace radiating from them. It didn't speak with a voice, but I understood it perfectly. You're safe now. I began to cry, but not out of sadness. It was a weeping of the soul, a release, a surrender, tears without eyes, emotions without weight, and the light. It began to open. I don't know how to explain it. It was like stepping through a veil, but the veil was inside me too. A door that recognized who I really was, a kind of spiritual DNA check, and it welcomed me, not because I was perfect, but because I was loved. Through that opening, the light grew stronger, more pure, more holy, and in that moment, everything I ever feared about death disappeared, because this was not the end, this was home. Suddenly, I felt knowledge flow into me, not facts, not data, but understanding, about life, about why we suffer, about the purpose behind even the smallest things. I understood that nothing is random, that love is the most powerful force in the universe, that everything we do, every thought, every intention, echoes into eternity. And then I saw him. I didn't see a face right away. I saw the presence first, a light within the light, brighter than anything around, and yet somehow gentle, welcoming, like the gravity of a star, pulling me not with force, but with pure love. And I knew. It was Jesus, not the Jesus from paintings, not the historical figure debated in books, but the living Jesus, the eternal Christ, the one who sees everything in you and still loves you without measure. As he came closer, I felt a trembling inside me, not from fear, but from awe, from the unbearable beauty of being fully seen. And then he spoke, not with lips, but into my very being. His voice was light, was warmth, was truth. He said, "You have come far, Leah, but there is more for you to see." He stood before me, not as a figure of myth, not as a story told in churches, but as truth itself, more real than the earth I had walked on, more alive than anything I had ever touched, more loving than anything I had ever dared to believe. Jesus, there is no face I could describe. He was not European, not Middle Eastern, not defined by race or time. He was light and presence. And yet, I saw his eyes. Oh, his eyes. They held everything. Joy, grief, creation, eternity. But above all, they held me. Every moment of my life, every failure, every kindness, every hidden cry. They looked straight through me, into the deepest parts of my soul, and I felt no shame, only compassion. He saw my sins, and he didn't turn away. He saw my doubts, and he drew closer. I fell to my knees, or what felt like knees. My soul bowed before him, trembling under the weight of a love so pure it hurt. I tried to speak, to apologize, to ask why he would come to someone like me. But before I could say anything, he spoke again, wordlessly, yet completely. "You were never alone, Leah. Not even once." Tears poured from me, not from pain, but from being seen and still loved. And then, I noticed something that broke me. Behind his radiance, behind that eternal light, there was a deep sadness in his eyes. Not disappointment, not anger, but grief. His gaze drifted, not away from me but beyond me, as if he were seeing the world, the whole world. And he said, "So many are lost, and they do not know me." His voice didn't echo like thunder. It whispered like wind, and yet it shook everything inside me. In that moment, I felt what he felt. It was as if he allowed me to touch his heart, and in it, I saw billions of souls, wandering, hurting, numbing themselves, mocking him, forgetting him. I saw children alone in war zones, mothers dying with empty hands, people staring at screens in dark rooms, searching for something they couldn't name, people laughing with hollow joy, burying fear under noise and distraction. And all the while, he watched them, loving them, waiting, weeping. He didn't need to speak. I understood. We broke his heart, not because he needs us, but because he loves us more than we could ever imagine. He showed me flashes of my own life, moments I had forgotten, times I could have helped someone but didn't, words I spoke that cut deeper than I realized, moments I looked away from pain because it was more comfortable to ignore. And yet, he never accused me. He never raised his voice. He only held me in that gaze that said, "I created you for love, and the world is running out of time." That was the first time I felt urgency in heaven. Yes, there was peace, but there was also a ticking clock, a sense that something was coming, and it was closer than anyone realized. After those moments of silence between us, Jesus looked into me once more. But this time, something changed. I felt the atmosphere shift. The peace was still there, but layered beneath it was something I can only describe as divine sorrow mixed with justice. A holy weight, like the heartbeat of eternity had stopped for a single breath. and the universe was about to exhale something irreversible. He said only this: "You must see what they will not believe." And then, everything around me dissolved. The golden light faded, and I was standing, if you can call it that, on the edge of a vast blackness. Not hell, not yet, but a veil of impending destruction. And suddenly, I saw it. Earth, but not the earth as we know it. It was trembling, groaning, as if the planet itself was crying out. Then it began. Day 1. I saw the sky split open. Not just clouds, but the very fabric of the atmosphere tore like a wound. Massive firestorms erupted across cities. London, New York, Shanghai, São Paulo, Johannesburg, no continent untouched. I saw fire raining from the sky. Not natural fire. It had a sound, like screams inside the flame itself. It melted buildings in seconds. People tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Some dropped to their knees and cried out to God. Others cursed him, even in their final moments. And I watched, as entire nations collapsed. The earth shook violently. Tsunamis swallowed entire coastlines. Volcanoes erupted in places that had been dormant for centuries, and the sky turned black. Day 2. A darkness fell over the world. Not the absence of light. This was a spiritual darkness. You couldn't see your own hands. You couldn't feel time. People wandered blindly, crying out, losing their minds. There was no electricity, no communication. Satellites failed. Power grids gone. The stars disappeared. The moon bled red. I saw people locked in their homes, sobbing, clutching pictures of loved ones. Some took their own lives, thinking death would end the terror. But what they didn't realize is, this wasn't just the end of the world. It was the beginning of judgment. Demons, real, terrifying, grotesque creatures, were released upon the earth. I saw them dragging souls into shadows. And I knew in my spirit, these were the ones who had rejected the light until the very last breath. Day 3. The earth itself opened. I don't know how else to say it. Massive chasms tore through cities. I saw souls rising and descending. Some were lifted in light, glorious, radiant, embraced by angels. Others were pulled into pits of torment, screaming as they went. And above it all, I saw Jesus weeping. His arms were stretched wide as if still on the cross. Blood dripped from his hands. Not symbolic blood, real, flowing, fresh. But this time, it wasn't for forgiveness. It was for those who refused it. He cried out, not in anger, but in unbearable grief. I called you. I waited for you. I loved you. Why did you not come? I fell to my knees, sobbing, shaking, unable to bear the weight of what I was seeing. Billions, billions of souls, gone in 3 days. Not because God was cruel, but because they had spent a lifetime ignoring his voice, mocking his name, living for themselves, trusting in power, politics, pride, instead of truth. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it all stopped. I was back in the presence of Jesus. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw a final message, not spoken, not shouted, but burned into my soul forever. Warn them, Leia. The time is shorter than they think. After the vision ended, I was shaking. Even in the presence of perfect love, I trembled under the weight of what I had seen. Billions lost. The world in chaos. 3 days that changed everything. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I just wept, because I felt like I had watched the soul of humanity break. And then Jesus touched me. He didn't need to. I had no physical body in that place, but somehow, I felt his hand, warm, steady, eternal. His touch didn't erase the sorrow, but it grounded me. I lifted my eyes, and he looked into me with a gaze that held both mercy and urgency. He said, "It is not my will that any should perish." His voice was low, quiet, but filled with the power of creation itself. But they have chosen other gods, the gods of self, the gods of money, control, pleasure, distraction. They have hardened their hearts against me, and they are running out of time. He began to show me flashes of what's happening on Earth now. In the time before the 3 days, I saw people worshiping themselves, obsession with identity, with fame, with control. Children raised without knowing the difference between truth and lies. Nations consumed with power and pride. Churches filled with noise, but empty of my spirit, he said. And then he showed me something that broke me again. Millions of believers, asleep. People who knew the truth, but lived like the world. People who believed in Jesus, but no longer burned for him. Comfortable Christianity, watered-down faith, hearts that were once on fire, now cold and distracted. I cried out in my spirit, "Lord, is there any hope left?" And his answer stunned me. "Yes, but it will require a shaking." He showed me waves of awakening, small revivals in hidden places, young people rising in hunger, old saints praying through the night, voices crying out in the wilderness again, hearts returning to him, not through comfort, but through desperation. Then he said, "Tell them, I am not coming for a lukewarm bride. Tell them, this is the hour to choose. Tell them, my mercy still cries out louder than judgment, but not for much longer." And then he paused, and I felt his sorrow again. "Leah, they think they have more time." That sentence pierced through me like a sword, because it was true. We think tomorrow is guaranteed. We think prophecy is symbolic. We think warnings are exaggerations, but heaven knows the clock, and it's minutes to midnight. Then he spoke one final word into my spirit, one that still echoes inside me every day. "Return to me, now, before the darkness falls." And just like that, the vision ended. The fire, the screams, the light, all of it, gone. And I knew what was coming next. I didn't want to leave. Every fiber of my soul clung to that place, that peace, that presence. The light of Jesus still lingered in me like a perfume I never wanted to wash away. But he looked at me with firmness and compassion and said, "You must go back, Leah. There is still work to be done." My spirit trembled. "Please, can I stay? Just a little longer?" I pleaded silently, but the answer was not cruel. It was just final. "They need to hear. You have seen what many will not. Now you must speak." And just like that, it happened. A force I can't describe began to pull me. Not violently, but relentlessly. Like being drawn through dimensions, through time, through flesh. The golden light vanished. The presence faded. The warmth disappeared. And suddenly, pain. Searing, crushing, suffocating pain. I gasped. But it wasn't a breath of air. It was like being slammed into a collapsing shell. I was back. In my broken body. In the ambulance. Screams around me. Lights flashing. A mask over my face. The paramedic shouted something in French I couldn't understand, and all I could do was weep. Not from the physical pain, though it was unbearable, but from the spiritual weight of what I had just lost, and what I had to carry. They stabilized me. I was in a coma for 3 days. 3 days, like the ones I had seen. And when I finally woke up in the hospital, the doctors told me it was a miracle I had survived. But I didn't feel like a miracle. I felt like a stranger in my own body. No one understood. Not the nurses, not my friends, not even my brothers. They were relieved I was alive. They smiled, they cried. But I could see it in their eyes. She's not the same. And they were right. How do you explain heaven? How do you tell people you saw billions die? How do you carry the weight of a message that no one wants to hear? At night, I would lie in that hospital bed and whisper into the darkness. Why me, God? Why choose someone like me? And each time, the memory of his words would echo in my soul, "Because you will speak, even if your voice trembles." I left the hospital months later, healed in body, but forever altered in spirit. My old life? Gone. I couldn't go back to designing cafes. I couldn't pretend everything was fine. I couldn't laugh at meaningless conversations or scroll endlessly through social media while the world was standing on the edge of judgment. I was no longer just Leah. I was a messenger. And that calling was not glamorous. It was lonely. Most people thought I was crazy. Some were curious. A few were moved. But many turned away, uncomfortable with my urgency, my warnings, my eyes that had seen too much. And yet, I keep speaking, because I must. Because Jesus didn't just send me back with trauma. He sent me back with a mission, to wake the sleeping, to comfort the broken, to warn the careless, and to call the lost back into his arms. Even if I lose friends, even if I walk alone, even if I'm never the same, I will speak, because eternity is real, because his love is real, because the darkness is coming, and we have so little time left. If you've listened this far, thank you. Not for me, but for your soul. Because what I saw was not a metaphor. Those 3 days, the fire, the darkness, the judgment, they're real. And they're closer than you think. I don't say this to scare you. I say it because I was sent back to say it, not as a prophet, not as a saint, but as someone who stood in the presence of Jesus and saw what's coming. Let me be clear. It's not about religion. It's not about being good enough. It's not about politics or movements or fear. It's about the heart. Your heart. My heart. Every single soul on this planet. Jesus is calling us, not to follow rules, but to come back to relationship, to return to truth, to return to Him. Because the time of mercy is still open, but not for long. You might be thinking, what can I do? I'm just one person. Isn't it too late? No. As long as you have breath, there is still time. Turn off the distractions. Get quiet. Call on His name. Repent. Forgive. Let go of pride. Let go of fear. Come back to the one who made you. He's not angry with you. He's grieving for you. And He's waiting, with arms still open. I don't know why He chose me to see what I saw, but I know this. I will not be silent. I will not dilute the message. I will not hide the truth. Because the darkness is coming. And if you knew what I know, if you had seen what I've seen, you would be running to the light right now. Please, don't wait until it's too late. Don't gamble with eternity. Don't let another day pass in spiritual sleep. Choose Jesus, now, before the sky breaks open. Your turn now. Please, I'm begging you, don't just scroll away. Tell me in the comments, do you believe we're running out of time? Have you felt that inner warning too? What do you think would happen if the 3 days began tonight? I read every single comment, because you matter, and I was sent back for you. If this message touched you, please share it. Let it reach someone who needs to hear before it's too late. And if you haven't already, subscribe. This channel is not for entertainment. It's for awakening. I am Leia. I died. I saw billions perish. I saw Jesus. And I came back to tell you, you still have a choice. Make it now. Maybe you're still processing what you just heard. Maybe your heart is beating faster. Maybe you're trying to explain it away. Or maybe, deep down, you know it's true. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a theologian. I'm not selling anything. I'm just a woman who died, stood before Jesus, saw a world on the edge, and came back because He said there was still hope. But let me be honest with you. There is no more time for lukewarm faith. No more time for playing games with eternity. No more time for putting off the voice of God inside you. You felt it, didn't you? That tug in your soul? That ache in your chest? That whisper you've ignored for years? It's not your imagination. It's Him calling you one more time. Because this isn't just a vision. It's a warning and a gift. Jesus showed me what's coming so that you don't have to be caught in it. He showed me the fire so you could run to the light. He showed me the darkness so you would choose the dawn. He showed me the grief in His eyes so I could tell you, you were made for more than this world. So many people are spiritually asleep, but that's not you. You're here. You're listening. That means something inside you is still alive. So what will you do with this moment? Will you just scroll to the next video? Will you say, interesting story, and go back to life as usual? Or will you stop, breathe, and ask the one question that could change everything? Jesus, is this real? Because I promise you, if you ask with an open heart, He will answer. He answered me. Even when I was broken, even when I was doubting, even when I had turned away, He still came for me, and He's coming for you too. For your final plea, from one soul to another. Before I go, please hear this. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't need all the answers. You just need to say yes. Yes to truth. Yes to love. Yes to coming home. Because the days ahead will not be easy, but those who are rooted in Him will not be shaken. He is your refuge, your anchor, your savior. And whether you believe it or not, you are loved beyond measure. So take the first step. Get on your knees. Speak to Him, even if it's messy, even if it's broken, even if it's just a whisper. He hears you, He wants you, and He is waiting, just on the other side of your surrender. Before you go, please, before you leave, comment below. What spoke to you the most in this message? Do you feel the urgency too? Have you had a dream or spiritual experience that confirmed this? This space is for you, to wake up, to connect, to share what God is doing in your heart. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to someone who's slipping away. Let's not waste this chance. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because the next message may be the one someone's soul is waiting for. I am Leia. I died. I saw what's coming. I saw the one who is coming. And I came back to say, you still have a chance. Don't waste it.